Hi, I'm Peter Findlay, and today I'll be showing you how I recorded a drum kit. I will look at microphone types used, microphone placement, and the effects used. First off, for the kick drum, I used the RE20 Electro Voice Dynamic microphone. This was placed inside the bass drum, pointing directly at the beater. I used this microphone because it is capable of reproducing extremely high sound pressure levels without the fear of distortion. Next up is the snare drum. For this, I decided to use two microphones, one on the top of the snare and one on the bottom of the snare. For the top snare, I used the Shure SM57 microphone. This was placed on the snare around an inch above the skin and turned at a 40-degree angle for sound rejection from the cymbals. The Shure SM57 is great for musical instrument pickup and vocals. It has a bright, clean sound and contoured frequency response, and is ideal for live sound reinforcement and recording. It's an extremely effective cardioid pickup pattern that isolates the main source while minimizing background noise. It has a frequency response of 40 to 15 kHz. The polar pattern is a cardioid and has a 3-pin audio XLR connector with an output impedance of 310 ohms. For the bottom of the snare, I used the Behringer C2 condenser and placed this under the snare at around 40-degree angle. The two mics were placed on the snare to provide a crisp, snappy sound as this drum was being struck. For the tom drums, I used the MD 421 Sennheisers. These were placed pointing to the middle of the toms at around 2 inches from the skin. Now for the overheads, I used two AKG 414 condenser microphones. These are a studio standard and one of the best known reference condenser microphones for recording use. They have a frequency range around 20 Hz to 20 kHz and has an impedance around 200 ohms and has a high dynamic range of 134 decibels. I positioned these around 3 feet apart on the large microphone stands and over 5 feet from the snare. To pick up the ambience of the room, I used two Crown PZM boundary condenser mics. These were placed facing the kit at around 4 feet apart. Once all these mics were placed on the kit, the balanced XLR cables were rerouted to the distribution board, which is connected to the control room and routed to Pro Tools 10 HD. Once all these mics were put in place and the performer was ready, I set up a session on Pro Tools 10 HD and labelled the tracks on the session. Once I got my levels organised and to satisfactory levels, I recorded the drums. On track 1, I had the kick drum. On track 2, the snare top. Track 3, the snare bottom. 4, the left tom. 5, the right tom. 6, the floor tom. And on channel 7, I had the right overhead. On channel 8, the left overhead. Channel 9, the right PZM. Channel 10, the left PZM. Once this was recorded, I decided to give the kick drum a little compression. For the compression for this kick drum, it was set to a brick wall setting, with a knee set to 3.9 decibels, attacked to 50.0, the gain was set to 11.6 decibels, with the ratio at 2.0 to 1, the release of 33.5 ms, and the threshold at negative 29.7 decibels. I then decided to add an EQ to the bass drum. I used a 7-band EQ. The settings for the low frequencies were set at 50 Hz with a gain at 2.0 dB and Q at 1. The low to mid frequencies were at 300 Hz and a gain at -3 dB and Q at 1. The mid frequencies were set to 500 Hz with a gain at -2.0 dB and a Q at 0.60. The high mid frequencies were set at 3.00 kHz and a gain at -2 dB and a Q at 1. And finally, the high frequency was set to 2.34 Hz with a gain at 0 dB and Q at 1.00. The high pass filter Q was set at 12 dB and the frequency was set to 200 Hz. The low pass filter Q was set at 6 dB and the frequency was 20.0 kHz. This EQ setting gave the bass drum a booming quality to it. Finally, I set up an auxiliary channel where the drum tracks would be bussed to. On this auxiliary channel, I added some reverb to give the kick a bit more life and to make it seem more atmospheric. I will now play for you a sample from the drum track which I recorded. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video.